Thank you, Congressman King. There was a theme going through today. 4 years ago, America was asking, who is Barack Obama? After 4 years, America is asking, who does Barack Obama think he is? Well, we have a very special message that was made today just for you, for the man who's running against him. Let's look at the monitors together right now.
Hello. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today, and I regret that commitments on the campaign trail prevent me from joining you in person. Over the last year, we've had reminders that standing up for our values is not always easy, but it is critically important. I'd like to thank Tony Perkins and the Family Research Council for their leadership and for once again bringing all of us together to discuss vital issues that affect our country and our families. This year, the Values Voters Summit takes place at a critical moment. In less than 2 months, Americans will go to the polls and choose between two very different visions for our future. Over the past 15 months, I've met people from all across the country and from all walks of life. I've talked with them in ballrooms and break rooms and high school gymnasiums and on factory floors. These Americans are good, honest, and hardworking people. They're proud to cling to their religion and to the Constitution, the American dream, and the principles our nation was founded on. But today, many of them are experiencing tough times. Millions of Americans can't find work. Too many have lost their jobs and their homes. Far too many are living in poverty, nearly 1 in 6. And this administration has failed to make things better. In fact, it's become even harder for our fellow citizens to get back on their feet and get back to work. Across the country, I've heard stories about the great strain that our troubled economy has placed on families. Moms and dads sit at the kitchen table each night trying to figure out how to pay a growing stack of bills. They're working harder than ever just to break even. They feel like they're standing still. They're tired of being tired. This is not the best America can do. It's just the best the Obama administration can do. We can turn things around, and we can start this November by making a big change at the top. We need a president who shares our commitment to conservative principles and our respect for traditional values. We will uphold the sanctity of life, not abandon or ignore it. And we will defend marriage, not try to redefine it. We need a president who understands that we will not have a strong economy unless we have strong communities and strong families. This isn't conjecture or some quaint belief. It's evidenced by a Brookings Institution study that Senator Rick Santorum brought to my attention some time ago. For those who graduate from high school, get a full-time job, and wait until they're 21 before they marry and then have their first child, the probability that they will be poor is 2%. But if those things are absent, the probability of becoming poor is 76%. In short, culture matters. And as president, I'll protect our culture and preserve the values of hard work, personal responsibility, family, and faith. Above all, we must preserve the American spirit of one nation under God. As president, I'll support the expression of religious faith in the public square. Our government should respect our values, not seek to silence them. I'm proud to have Paul Ryan as my running mate. He'll speak with you during this summit about our shared commitment to these values and our common worldview. Paul and I will provide the kind of leadership that this moment demands. We'll work to strengthen our families, to rebuild our economy, and to keep our military second to none in the world. All we ask is that between now and November 6th, you join us and commit like never before. This election can come down to just one more vote. I ask you to find that one vote. Ask one more person to join our campaign. Ask one person who supported President Obama 4 years ago and didn't get the change they deserved to join our cause. One more vote can make the difference in this election, and this election will make the difference for America. Thank you, and God bless the United States of America.
Thank you, folks. We did ask Barack Obama to also submit a video, but he was busy auditioning for American Idol and was not able to do it. Now, folks, We are just a tad over, which often happens, but these have been really good times, and we appreciate so much your patience and indulgence. We have two very important speakers we want to share before we take our late afternoon break. Coming in just a few minutes, you're going to be hearing from a former terrorist who worked for individuals like Yasser Arafat, Muammar Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, and Hafez Assad of Syria, and yet has come to Christ and has an incredible testimony and can definitely speak with passion and authority on the issues that are unfolding this very day. So you want to stay for that. But first, we are honored to have a man who was named Pro-Life Legislator of the Year from United Conservatives of Ohio and won the Defender of Life Award from Ohio Right to Life for his unwavering commitment to protecting the sanctity of human life. In Congress, he has championed legislation in defense of the unborn and has led the fight on pro-family issues such as defending traditional marriage. For the 112th Congress, he was elected chairman of the Republican Study Committee, which is very important to us. This is the caucus of House conservatives for the purpose of advancing a conservative social and economic agenda in the House of Representatives of the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Representative Jim Jordan.
Thank you. Very kind. Thank you. Sit down. We're running. You guys have listened to a lot of speakers, and I know we're running a little over time, so I'll be brief. But thank you, Gil. And wasn't Mr. Romney's message right on target? Look, I live in the state that matters a lot in this election, and Mitt Romney's the right guy. We've been going all over the state talking to folks. The message he gave there about tell everyone, this is one of those elections where you want Aunt Sally and Cousin Joey and everybody to vote, so make sure you do that. It is a election where there are, as he said, two distinct paths we can take as a nation. It is just one of those critical moments. So thank you for being here, for all you're doing, for engaging in the fight across this great country. I want to thank Tony Perkins, who's a good friend, who's doing a great work with the Family Research Council and everyone else who's involved today. Let me just start here. About almost a year ago, November of last year, Polly and I, my wife and I, along with Tony and his family and several other members of Congress, we were in Israel. We were there the week that the IAEA announced that Iran was getting close, as we all know they are. Fascinating time to be. It's always a fascinating time to be in Israel, but this was a particularly fascinating week to be there. The day that we had a chance to visit with Prime Minister Netanyahu was actually the day they made the announcement about how close Iran. The things that came through loud and clear. Didn't matter who you're talking to folks in the private sector, talking to folks in the government. One of the things that came through loud and clear, they all said the same thing. They said the best way, the absolute best way your country can help our country, the best way the United States of America can help Israel is for America to stay strong. They said, when you're stronger, we're safer. When you're stronger, we're better. And this is, I think, sometimes what this administration misses. The world's a scary place. It's a dangerous. Watch the TV the last week. Watch it any hour of the day. Watch what's going on, obviously, right now in the Mideast. It's a scary, dangerous place, but it's a less scary, less dangerous, better place when the United States of America, with our histories, our principles, our values, when we lead. And that's what's at stake ultimately. When you break it all down, ultimately that's what's at stake in this election, and that's why it's so important we do everything we can to help Governor Romney win this race. You think about this administration, I think they're doing everything wrong. And here's a simple fact. If you want to lead diplomatically, you first have to lead militarily. If you want to lead militarily, you first have to lead economically. And if you want to lead economically, you had better be right on the right values and the right principles and the right culture. And this administration... This administration seems to be doing everything wrong. I mean, you can just talk about the economic issues. Just run down the list. Tax policy, regulatory policy, energy policy, monetary policy. We just saw what the Fed announced yesterday. I mean, at some point, we're going to have to get back to a sound dollar. Fiscal policy, we all know that. I mean, you can run healthcare policy. We all know how outrageous Obamacare is. And on it goes. Education policy, the lack of allowing parents in particularly urban areas to have the choice to send their kid to the school they think is going to help them get to the American dream. I mean, and on it goes. I do this now with every audience I get a chance to speak to. How many of you think we need a new tax code? Anyone think we need a new tax? Yeah. It's always the same response. Every hand goes up, and those who are too lazy to raise their hand, like a few of you, nod your head like you all did. But everybody gets it. I mean, think about this. Any tax code on the personal side which says to 47% of the population, you're not going to participate in the main tax, is broken. And then any tax code on the corporate side which says to American companies, you're going to pay the highest corporate tax rate in the world, is stupid. So if it's broken and stupid, you might want to start over, right? And you can go down the list, and I won't go through all of them for time's sake, but I'll let you all in on a little secret. At some point, we're going to have to spend less money. We're actually going to have to cut something. I mean, we are. You know now that you've all heard the numbers, and it's not about the numbers so much, it's what it means to people. I mean, the numbers, we got a $16 trillion debt, bigger than our annual economy. Whenever your debt's bigger than your GDP, that's a bad place to be. Now, the greatest country in history is now at that point. We're going to spend $200 billion in interest payments this year to service that debt at a time when interest rates are at record low. I'll let you all in a little secret. They're going to go up. And if they go up just modestly, which they will at some point, we will go from spending $200 billion to service that $16 trillion debt to where we have to spend more in interest than we currently spend on national defense, which begs the obvious question, how do you sustain that model? You simply can't. I mean, we're going to have to cut spend. There's any of you ever seen the musical 1776? Anyone watched the show? Great show. And of course, it's where we all started. The musical takes place right in Independence Hall when the founders are debating the Declaration, that document that was going to declare to the world why this place would be different, why this place, liberty, would really mean something. And the scene that I like is where Jefferson has drafted the paper, and they're marking it up. They're debating the Declaration, and they're adding and amending and adjusting the language in the document. And of course, Adams has been the driving force behind this, and he's the impatient kind, and he's pushing, and they're talking about everything. And one member stands up and says, well, we may not want to say it exactly like this, because our beef is mostly with the king, and this is reference to Parliament. And someone else stands up and says, yes, and although our concerns are with the king, we may want to change this sentence and this paragraph, and Adams is good. And finally, a third member stands up and says, yeah, we got to be concerned about this because of our deep-sea fishing rights we have off the coast of New England. And finally, Adams can't take it any longer. And he stands up and says, it's a revolution, dang it. We're going to have to offend somebody. And the point is, we're going to have the discipline to do the right thing. One thing I've only been in Congress 3 terms, but one thing I've learned, it's the convenient thing is always what gets done around this place. The right thing, the discipline thing is what we're going to have to focus on. And we're going to get there if we get. We got a chance to get there if Mitt Romney's elected. I mean, we really do. But it's more than just the economic. It is, I mean, the cultural concerns are the true foundation. Respect for the sanctity of life, respect for the first institution. I know you all know this, but the first institution the good Lord put together, it wasn't the church and it wasn't the state. It was the family. And the strength of that institution ultimately determines the strength of our entire society, our entire culture. And people in positions of influence over policy need to keep that in mind. Well, it doesn't matter what policy. The reason you're for lowering taxes is not because it's good economic policy, but it lets moms and dads have their money to spend on their kids and their grandkids' future and go after their goals and their dreams. So it's all about those values issues that form that base so we can have the strong economy, so we can have the strong military, so we can diplomatically be the leader of the world, and the world's a safer and better place. And again, that's what's at stake in this election. I will just finish with this. I learned a long time ago. My background's in the sport of wrestling. I learned a long time ago. You want to accomplish anything that really matters? You want to attain things that have significance and meaning? It ain't easy. It is always difficult. It's just the way God made it. You want to do things that count? It's going to take work. It's going to take effort. It's going to take sacrifice. That's the way it works. And so I want to thank you for getting involved. It's not going to be easy. John Fund and I gave a speech, and I may have shared this with you last year. I can't remember. But John Fund and I spoke together at an event about a year ago, and he said something that stuck with me. He says, it's interesting to note how history has played out in this great nation. Every third generation's had to do something big. And he started right where we just were, the founders. declaring to the world why this place was going to be special, why liberty and freedom were going to mean something here. No one thought they could prevail against Great Britain. No one thought they could win, yet they believe in the cause and they put it all on the line, their lives, their fortune, their sacred honor, and they prevailed against the longest odds possible. 3 generations later, those Americans alive at that point in history kept the Union together, dealt with the evil of slavery when it looked very, very difficult, and they were successful. 3 generations after them, Americans got through the Great Depression, handled the Second War, and everything associated with that, and they made it when, again, the odds looked long and the challenge looked big. And now here we are, 3 generations later, and the simple fact is, it's our turn, and it will not be easy. It will not be easy. Again, it's just the way it works. But through effort and sacrifice and the grace of God, good things can happen. And it starts, what are we down to? 54 days, 53 days to election. That's when it starts. And so this one is critical. And it's just one of those moments. We were on a tour last week, 2 weeks ago. With some friends, we had a free afternoon, and so Polly and I, with some friends, toured the Wright brothers' home in Dayton, Ohio. And it was fascinating. We went all through there. We got some Ohio folks. Went all through there, and it was a fascinating old home. We have an old home ourselves, and so we enjoyed that, and we went through it. The last room we were in, the guide held up a picture of when they first flew, the first flight, Kitty Hawk in 1903. And we looked at it. It was amazing. And then the next picture they held up, 44 years later, Chuck Yeager breaking the sound barrier. Now think about that. In 44 years, we went from first flight to breaking the sound barrier. And if you take it the next step, 22 years later, 1969, Neil Armstrong steps on the moon. That reflects what this country is about. The makeup of the American people is unbelievable. So again, thank you for stepping into the fight. I learned a long time ago, you get in the game, you're going to be criticized, particularly by the press. I tell my colleagues all the time, if the press ain't saying something bad about you, you're probably not doing anything good. I mean, it just... So, Cal Thomas has a great line. He's talking about the way normal people see things and sometimes the way the elite national press views things. He has a great line. He says, many of you probably heard it, but he says, I get up every morning, I read my Bible and the New York Times so I can see what each side's up to. So just understand it, and I know you know this, it's not going to be easy, but we can get through it, and we can meet the challenge like we always have. After all, we're Americans. My favorite scripture verse, and I will stop here, and I know that's only the second time I said that, but I mean it this time. My favorite scripture verse, 2 Timothy 4:7. I've fought the good fight, I've finished the course, I've kept the faith. Paul's in prison writing to Timothy. It's almost like the older, wiser guy giving advice and counsel to the younger guy. Fight the good fight, finish the course, keep the faith. And I like the verse. I like the verse mostly because I think it's a verse that applies to our country. It's a verse of action. Americans, it's just who we are. It's in our DNA. We are not a shy and timid folk. We're Americans. The people who, our ancestors, they said in Europe, you got to practice your faith a certain way, and they said, like heck we do. We'll get on a boat, we'll come to America, and we'll do it the way we think the good Lord wants us to. It's just part of who we are as people. We are not shy, we are not timid, we are people of action. That is what is required at this moment, at this particular point in history. Our generation is going to have to do what so many generations in the past have done in this great country. We're going to have to rise to the occasion and deal with it. And then, like so many other things, if you have the discipline to do it right, when you come out on the other side, things are better. And that's where we're going. God bless you. Thank you very much.